and welcome to the Open Book channel. My name is Oli Ander, your designated open book, and this is where I share my journey as an author, talk about the craft of writing, the business of being a content creator, and occasionally review really good books. I am currently doing a little series where I rebrand older releases under my defunct pen name to see whether I can improve their exposure through better fitting genre expectations and trying new marketing things. In my last video, I redid the cover for my first book in the Bleeding Heart series called Heart-Shaped Hands. HSH is a short collection of love poems, and rebranding it to match that genre was really simple, as the aesthetic is just minimalist, which is easy to make cute. The next book that I will be working on today won't be quite so easy. Strangling Heartstrings captures the death of my first relationship. It starts by looking at the warning signs we ignored as teenagers, leads into the toxic codependency that we formed as young adults, but then it goes even further and darker, talking about the survivor's guilt I experienced in leaving a partner who threatened suicide in that event, and ending on self-forgiveness. Not very light topics, or ones that anyone would want to pick up and read casually. The formatting of the collection is prose. Some are short, but many more like prose narratives giving the play-by-play of a whole situation, rather than in Heart-Shaped Hands where everything was romantic essence, closer to poetry. As you can see, I had a theme aesthetically across the series. It just wasn't appealing, as each individual one didn't communicate what its contents were. And I'm gonna be honest, I always knew that these were not very good covers. I was actually kind of intentionally shooting myself in the foot on this series. My intentions with the original cover's designs was to communicate that it was a progressively worsening series. Like, I really didn't want someone to go from Heart-Shaped Hands into Strangling Heartstrings and get upset by the topic of suicidal ideation. So I wanted them to look a bit darker, visually heavy, but also convey a sense of amateurishness in the cover design itself. Not that the writing isn't, but I'm not ripping on myself here. I was trying to avoid criticism. I didn't go through the proper process with them before publishing and editing or betas. The Bleeding Heart series was a labor of processing my trauma, and I didn't feel capable of taking critique to spend the time needed to refine them, like a true writer who values the craft, because as much as I felt that my experiences may help someone else process theirs, it was not healthy for me to linger on them any longer. Strangling Heartstrings and the Sunk Heart Fallacy are very raw, and I knew that if I kept the covers looking like this, anyone who picked them up would be aware of what they were getting into and not be quite so mad at any awkward sentencing. I mean, when's the last time that you saw a fully white background cover with clip art on it, essentially? Admittedly, though, only really wanting to release them on ebook, I thought that the design would be more legible on e-reader thumbnails. But now e-readers are bigger and in color, so overall I was just being an overcautious scaredy cat. And now, because of all that, no one has read any of my older abandoned books, so my plan was a little too effective. It was hard deciding how to make all the books convey their content while keeping a coherency between the escalation of topics. How can a collection of love poems ever look the same as a book on mental health and emotional abuse, which is the last installment, by the way? Because the series is called Bleeding Heart, I thought I'd lean into watercolor textures. Since the first installment is smooth and minimalist, I decided to take that, darken the full color covers over each installment, adding texture, and making the illustration more scribbly in a chaotic way rather than an elegant one. I think the product I came up with says prose poems, but also kind of punk and moody. I traced over my old illustrated cover with a more textured brush tool and got to scribbling. Maybe I haven't grown as much as a cover creator because I couldn't let go of what I'd done originally, but I also really feel like I'd cooked on it too much to discard. All of the elements that I incorporated perfectly illustrate what's inside the book. The heart being painfully squeezed by another's hands, the main vessel of the heart warping into a noose, and it resting in a way that some people might notice is an upside down heart. Also, like, cartoon heart, not heart, like the anatomical one actually being shown. I chose a font that would accent the chaotic illustration lining, but also wasn't way too far off from the font for the sections of the interior of the book, which look like this. The harder part I was going to have with this book was rewriting its blurb, I thought. The one I had was so bad that it didn't take much to make it better, though. So, even in the book description, it's so obvious that I was trying to divert people from actually reading it. Example A being the middle paragraph. Valheim would like to stress that this collection is not your typical breakup poetry book, full of angst and bleeding hearts, although it certainly has some of that too. Strangling Heartstrings, as the title and cover suggest, is the revisiting and unraveling of trauma caused by a codependent relationship and the act of leaving a partner while under the threat of their suicide. Really, me? I would like to stress that my book is different, darker. Come on. I was so anxious and so full of myself at the same time. Anyway, I shortened the lines that had some well-chosen wording, like unsustainable fairy tale and mutually assured misery. Despite my last love poem collection, I didn't have reading ages set for this one, although anyone under 16 probably shouldn't be reading this. I don't know where my head was at during these releases. I was a mess, let's be honest. And then it turns out that I clicked the sexually explicit box for the paperback version of it. God's help me. Anyway, so I updated the metadata, really leaned into the edgy, scribbly watercolor vibes for the paperback, and voila! The new cover for Strangling Heartstrings. Available in ebook now, and unboxing of the paperback to come. I've just got one more book in the series to go, The Sunk Heart Fallacy, and its original cover is so slapped together that I'm going to have to actually start from scratch this time. But you'll see that in the next video. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments if you're enjoying the series. If you'd like to support me, there are links to my socials in the description below, and I will see you for the next hardest book cover I have ever had to rebrand. Thanks again for watching. Bye.